All right. Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We were having some technical difficulties, probably on my end, with trying to get this connected. But happy Thursday and welcome back to Ask an Attorney Anything. Again, my name is Jamie O'Neill. I am one of the associates here at the Legacy Legal team. Today, what I wanted to cover is I wanted to talk about title insurance. I know a lot of people that might be selling or buying a home, mainly, obviously, of course, the buyers have a lot of questions about what is title insurance. A lot of times that'll come up, obviously, when you're trying to buy a house, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, there's insurance. What's this extra cost that this is? Do I really have to get it? Why do we need it? So I want to cover a little bit of that today. But before we go over what title insurance is, I want to cover with everybody really the basis of how you even get to having title insurance. So you're going to start with what title is in general. So title itself is just ownership rights. A lot of people think about it as my deed is what makes me own my property. Yes, that is the document or the vehicle that, yes, allows you to have it shows that you do have actual ownership and you've been granted title to that particular piece of property. Yes. But essentially what it is, it's just title means ownership rights. If you hold title, that means that you actually hold the right to that specific property. Now, the next step with all of this is also a title search. When you have a real estate closing, one of the very first things that a title agent, real estate attorney, if they're conducting your closing for you, what they're going to do is they're going to have you do a title search. And what that essentially is a pretty lengthy examination of the public records. They will search what's called the chain of title, which is the back who owned the property, who's the current owner of the property, who was the owner before that, the owner before that. And they'll keep going through that chain of title. And they'll also be searching the property records through the property appraiser, through public records, all of those things. They're going to be searching that specific property and what could be potentially encumbering that property. If there's any liens, is there anything that has been recorded that attaches to that property that could either cause an issue with a seller having ownership of that property or would prevent a buyer, or maybe have a buyer not want to purchase that property anymore because maybe it wouldn't be sufficient for their use or what they want, or maybe there's too many issues with it that maybe they need to get out of the contract now because of the issues that might be on the property. The title search is a very big key thing in a real estate closing. It's highly necessary, especially if you are wanting to purchase a piece of property. I highly recommend that you always have a title search. And obviously, if you're closing through a title company or a real estate attorney, especially like our office, we will be running a title search to ensure that the seller actually has legal rights and ownership to the property. And we'll be getting that title search to make sure there's no other issues that the parties need to be aware of as far as getting that property closed. Now, once the property has been determined to be free and clear, then title insurance can then be issued. Okay. So there are two basic types of title insurance. You're going to have the first one is going to be, we'll just go over the first one very briefly, is a lender's policy. Okay. A lender's title policy is going to protect the lender, so the mortgage company. So as a buyer, if you are purchasing a piece of property and you are purchasing it using a mortgage, even if it's a small loan or you're financing the entire thing, then the lender in that situation is going to pretty much 99.9% of the time, I would say, require a lender's policy. And what that lender's policy is going to do is protect the lender, because that is essentially their interest in the property, because they're going to technically own that property until that mortgage is paid off. And then obviously the title would be officially, of course, in your name. Now, this particular type of policy does not cover the owner. It only covers the lender, which is obviously why it's called a lender's titles policy. The second type, and the one we're going to focus on today, is a owner's title policy. So this is where we're going to talk about the title insurance. Okay. So when we're talking about title insurance, as far as it goes to owners, we're talking about an owner's title policy. So this is something that is not required. It is not something that as a buyer that you have to purchase. However, I will tell you that it is highly recommended that you get it. in my personal opinion, it is absolutely necessary that you get a owner's title policy and you have title insurance on your property in order to protect you and your investment, because property is expensive. And this is something that is an investment for you, whether it's going to be the property that you live in, whether this is some kind of business investment that you're going to lease, or you have any other kind of business purpose for that piece of property. It's protecting your investment by having this insurance that will cover you in the event that there's any kind of issue. Now, what are some of the issues that an owner's title policy covers against? It can protect you against things like hidden or missed title defects that existed prior to the issuance of that title policy. Things like forgery, fraud, errors in the public record. There are times when there are documents that have been recorded that are either actually touching that piece of property that you're purchasing by mistake, that wouldn't have been picked up because maybe there was an error in the recording. Maybe the clerk made a mistake and it was actually recorded on the wrong piece of property, but it was supposed to actually be encumbering the piece of property that you're buying. That those are very common things that happen and may not show up on a title search if it's recorded on the wrong piece of property or it's unrecorded completely. Some other common issues are prior liens. That could be things like back taxes, or like I said, unpaid taxes, undisclosed liens. There could be ownership disputes. So things like that could be unknown heirs to a property, or maybe there's a missing will or some kind of improper probate proceedings where there's someone who actually owned the property or is supposed to have an ownership right of a piece of property that you're purchasing that the seller was unaware of or never had any idea that even existed, and they actually have some kind of claim to the property. Other things include unrecorded easements. Let's say there's an easement on a piece of property that you're purchasing that was not recorded. Then if it's not recorded, and obviously the title search, like we discussed earlier, is going to be going and looking at the documents that are in public record that are encumbering or touching a piece of property that you're purchasing. If it's not recorded, it's not going to pop up on that title search. If you don't know, obviously, if it's not recorded, then people aren't going to know that's there. And that's something that title insurance is there to help protect against in the event that's discovered after the title insurance policy is issued and after you've closed on your property. Now, in Florida, as you all know, is a very high, big, booming real estate market down here. People are buying and selling properties all the time. It's changing hands. Sometimes people aren't using title companies. They're not using attorneys. They're just, okay, here's a deed, here's this. They quit claim deed to this person, quit claim deed to that person. Without some of those documents, sometimes people forget to record things. Sometimes people record them wrong. Sometimes legal descriptions are wrong. Sometimes easements are created and they were never even supposed to be created, or they were improperly created. Those are all things, those hidden defects with a piece of property are why, like I said, a title search is necessary. And also why getting title insurance is also absolutely necessary in order to protect your investment in the event that those types of documents could pop up on a piece of property. Now, I'm going to give you just a hypothetical situation. Imagine you buy a home, you're in Florida, and you move in, you're happy, you've completed the title search and the closing process, and you've moved into your new home. You're loving it. Let's say a few months later, somebody shows up and they knock on your door and they say, hey, I'm actually the rightful heir to this piece of property. And they tell you that the previous owner way back when had passed away, they had a will, and they left everything to this person that's at your front door. But this will was actually never discovered when the title search was done, or there was no probate proceedings, or it's all of a sudden, but let's say it's a valid, and this person actually has a claim to this piece of property. And maybe it's multiple owners, back in the chain of title. But let's say that this person actually has legit ownership rights to this piece of property, and that the prior sellers actually needed to have this person on the deed, or there's an issue here. In that particular scenario, the title insurance is going to step in and protect you. Okay. It's going to either cover things like legal costs. It can also help you defend your ownership of the property. It will also potentially compensate you for the financial loss in the event that the heir's claim is actually legitimate. And that title insurance is there to help shield you from any kind of unexpected legal battles or financial losses that could potentially threaten the piece of property that you now believe that you have full ownership of based on the fact that there was this undisclosed heir. So that is the great thing about title insurance, because that is something that would protect you in that situation. Now, let's say you didn't have title insurance. You elected not to purchase it, which is your right. You do not have to purchase it. In that scenario, you would not have any coverage for that situation. You would need to likely you'd have to pay for an attorney out of pocket to start, investigating these things. You would have no protection for that situation because you would not have, you elected not to purchase that insurance. So there's, I know there's sometimes a risk reward benefit sometimes to, do I get insurance? Do I not get insurance? People probably have the same situation when you decide, do I want to get insurance on my phone? Do I want to put insurance on my house? Do I want to do all these things? Because you just don't know, right? And sometimes the cost outweighs the benefit. In this situation, the last thing we're going to cover is, what does this cost, right? What is it actually beneficial and worth my while to spend that extra money? Because you're already spending a lot of money, right? Purchasing a piece of property. Why would I want to spend more money? And how much is this going to cost me in order to get this insurance? The good part about title insurance is that it is actually a one-time premium. So you only pay it one time. You pay it at closing, and that is the only time that you pay that premium for the rest of your life. It covers you the rest of the time that you own that piece of property. If that's the rest of your life, then it obviously covers it. Then it covers your heirs. It can cover your beneficiaries. And there is no other time that you would have to repay that premium. Okay. It's a one-time payment. Now, as far as cost, that's going to vary. It is generally not always on the money, but it is generally about 0.5% of the purchase price. Let's say the property is around $300,000. And obviously there's sometimes some wiggle room. This is an approximation. Your title insurance policy, in order to get that title insurance, might be somewhere around $1,500 and maybe $2,000. That's usually around the guess, is that 0.5% range. So yes, $1,500, $2,000 extra on top of what you're already purchasing is a lot of money. But when you look at the fact that it actually covers you for the rest of the time that you own this piece of property, given the fact that there are just with how busy the real estate market is in Florida, it is actually a really good tool to help protect your investment by just having that extra. Think about that, having just that extra little bit that you can put towards it and make sure that you have that protected investment for the rest of your life, or at least the rest of the time that you do own that piece of property. And yep, that's basically all it is about title insurance. There's obviously a lot more things that we could go into, but that's a lot of the main key parts about what it is. Like I said, I think that it is, personally, when I purchase properties, I've gotten title insurance on both my houses that I purchased. I think that it is a very good tool, and I feel like it's protecting my investment. Obviously, as someone who's buying a home, I do think that I've been very fortunate that there haven't been any issues with properties that I've purchased. But unfortunately, at the Legacy Legal team, we handle real estate things here, real estate cases here. And there have been things that come through our door where people have come in and said, "Hey, I have an issue here. I don't know what to do." And our first thing is, did you have title insurance? And then we start trying to figure out, okay, is that a claim that we can make? Or if you didn't have title insurance, now they're coming to us and we need to help rectify or try to see what we can do to rectify the situation that somebody's making some kind of claim, or there's an unrecorded document that might have popped up on a piece of property. But let me see if there's any questions. I don't know if anybody has any questions that I can answer about title insurance, what it is, why you need it. Just going to wait here for just a second just to see. And I don't think we have any questions, but obviously feel free to drop any questions. We're going to obviously post the video. If you have any questions about title insurance or anything that we can do, we have more information on our website as well. Our firm we also have Concierge Title, who, we are an attorney-backed title company, which Legacy Legal Team is the firm who is does the backing for Concierge Title. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comment or give us a call. And it was nice having everybody join us today. Thank you.